All right, boys. It's just me today, no Phil. I'm gonna be going through because Keenan said it'd be a good idea to go through us being Phil, Jose, and I, the Unfun Stuff guys. Our decks that we played for Tim Keefe's experimental TTS tournament. We all had some interesting decks. I think people were having fun watching them on stream and stuff. I'm going to go through some of my thoughts on the meta, on how the format worked out with the extra 2 cards, some adjustments that may or may not be necessary, and the way that the deck worked and how it played. I can go through a little bit about like my matchups and stuff like that, but I probably won't spend too much time on that. It's not really a tournament report as much as it is a deck review, I guess. Yeah. And if you feel like it, leave a comment, subscribe, check out our Patreon and Teesprings and all that stuff. Okay, so this is the Yoshimitsu deck, but it's not very much like some of the Yoshimitsus that we've seen in the past. Added to the wiki, always shaving today. It's kind of like a monstrosity. I've been playing the deck, or variants of this deck, since Worlds of last year. I teamed up with Kevin Broberg and Alex Marco, and Kevin was really hype on his Yoshimitsu deck that he was playing at that time. It was a lot different from this. He was playing Kali Yugas, a bunch of True Identities, and the Meteor was the really big part of the thing. And we of course had access to Shadow Slicer, but he had this really cool cardboard capoeira thing that it blew my face off, where he was looping Meteors with +1s to the check with True Identity and stuff like that. And it really just showcased what a really talented and impressive deck builder and player could do with a Yoshimitsu, right? Because a lot of other Yoshimitsu decks that we've seen before are very face roll, not to shit on JJ's list that he played at Omaha, but it was very face roll. It was reductions, rando guns, which is very good. I'm not saying it's not good. And then just roll over you with all these huge attacks. And there's nothing wrong with that, but this sort of cerebral, assimilate pieces and overwhelm your opponent with those pieces, and also by depriving them with their pieces, is what I really liked about it. So there were a lot of jokes leading up to the event that I was playing a mill deck, and it certainly has the capacity to mill, but we're sort of building up to a singularity where they just no longer have the answers for my killer strings. Or I've deprived them of so many pieces that they, if they're intelligent, they scoop, which happened a few times. But we can start from the top. Yoshimitsu is a character, is a 5/29, and he has lower hand size for a 5-hander because he has access to 2 extra cards on both turns. We'll get to why he gets that later. He has an enhance where he 5-up, gets his next high attack for the turn gets +3 damage, and the next mid attack gets +3 speed. And this stacks, so you can play cool strings where I might open with an Evil Bow, and I'll enhance Yoshimitsu and get my next high attack will get 3 damage. My next mid attack will get 3 speed, and then I'll go into a high attack. I'll play Meteor right after the Evil Bow leaves the card pool because it doesn't chain into Meteor, of course. And this thing gets 3 damage, but I enhance Yoshimitsu. My next mid attack gets 3 more speed, so there's a stacked 6 speed to my next mid attack. I play another Meteor. It gets 3 damage, right? But I've got 6. If I land another Yoshi, there's 9 speed waiting for this I shall save humanity over here that's coming in at 14 mid for however much momentum I have, right? And that's sort of the bread and butter. But there were times in the event where I killed Mike Lowe with a 9 speed. Or no, it was a 10 speed precise blow for 3 damage because he was just at 2 or something like that. There are times where I need a reduction to hit so that I would get the momentum. And so it's a very versatile enhance, and it feeds directly into his response where after you make a check, the check gets +2. That's accessible at any time. So that's really important for maybe you really need to block something. Even if you don't check a weapon, you still get the +2. But if you do check a weapon, you draw 2 cards. I think that a lot of people play Yoshimitsu are really, really in on the +2s of the check. But my thing here is, even though you're going to go through it, you're going to see tons and tons of non-blocks. I want to block everything. I want to block everything all the time. I want to make sure that my life resource, my life total is kept really, really far up, so my opponent is discouraged from trying to string me, right? Because the lower health I have, the more encouraged they're going to be. Oh, I can get my thing in. I want them to sit there so I have more time to amass my staging area and build my win condition, assemble my win condition. So a lot of the cards you'll see here are going to be taking advantage of that. So we almost never want to use the check or the +2 unless we really need to block something. Like, I mean, playing Interrupter, you kind of just take the +2 wherever it is. But if you check a weapon card, you draw 2 cards, and you want to use that as much as possible. And then we go to the foundations. These foundations are very important for us. The 4 ofs are of course going to be staples. Shokan Prince lets us be a 9-hander who has 5-hander effects and is very discouraging. I don't think I've ever seen anybody have fun with this card, but we're trying to stall out the game, and Shokan Prince certainly does it extremely well. If you ever get more than 1 out, your opponent cannot string you. And that's a problem that the deck has. In Retro, when we were playing decks like this, the biggest problem that I had was when I think there was a game against our Tim Keefe deck where it was just like 10 attacks, long string, right? Because there were Trinity Geysers and things like that, and I just had nothing to there. I want to be able to block the 2 attacks my opponent can play, and the Shokan Prince really makes it so that they can't play more than those 1 or 2 that I am fully capable of blocking, right? Manji and Mechanical Ninja feel really mediocre on their faces, right? They're just weapon cards with 3+ blocks, right? But they're weapons for Yoshimitsu, so you can check 7s if you stack them on top of your deck with Manji or something like that. But Manji has some incredible interactions with cards like Evil Bow. Evil Bow, I mean, I can talk about it later in more detail, but Evil Bow is really, in combination with Manji, is sort of the engine, right? That's what really gets us ramping up and able to sculpt the perfect kill turn. One of the biggest reasons why I like this deck so much is because I have terrible RNG. And it's very hard for me to assemble win cons that just rely on pure drawing of orange and stuff like that. This sort of deck lets me tutor up the things that I need for the turn, and amass multi-turn. Like a lot of the times I would sculpt for 3 or more turns to get the pieces that I need to kill my opponent. It doesn't necessarily need to be a single turn thing, but it can be. And there are certainly enough checks in the deck to hit it when you absolutely need to on your opponent's turn. And that's another important part of Mechanical Ninja and Sense of Morals, which in combination with your character, you can get 7+ checks off. So if you're like, man, I need to go grab that Know the Power of the Abyss that's in my discard pile, you can just make 100 checks to try to dig for an Evil Bow and discard a card from your hand. And a big important note here is that Evil Bow and Manji works the best in Yoshimitsu because this doesn't check a 2 when you check it. It checks a 4 and draws you 2 cards. So a lot of turns start with first form Manji. Do I need a momentum? Do I need to gain 4 life? Maybe I tap 2. You get that momentum. If you already have momentum, maybe you gained 4. You discard that momentum to stack an Evil Bow, and you start your turn with whatever card you want in your discard pile plus 1 card because you have to remove 1, right? But you drew 2 extra cards to turn, remove the worst one in it for the best card in your discard pile, and you are set up. So once you have the Manji and the Evil Bow there, it's a very powerful forward momentum that you can amass. And there are not very many characters that can utilize this. My short list is really Bison 2, who's really just a mill deck. And Janet. Janet can play it very well because she always has momentum for the Manji. But the fact that Yoshi can play it and he gets pluses all over the board with it. He has +2 hand size. It's checking a 4 instead of a 2. All these things really, really make it great. In other decks, if you stack the Evil Bow, you're probably starting with like a Sense of Morals or something like that. In Yoshi, you can just be like, I mean, fuck it, I'll play a 5 difficulty and tap 1 foundation, because you check the 4. So it's just really, really good. And Mechanical Ninja, you know, sometimes you get a bunch of them out, and your high attacks just get really fast. Your mid attacks get really big. I mean, you can have reductions that are just hidden for 4 because you had 3 Mechanical Ninjas in there. Very, very cool. Sense of Morals is just a really bonkers card. It's really funny. Broberg and I went back and forth about having 3. I had like 3 main, 1 side, and they're just like, just fucking play 4, dude. And yeah, just play 4 with this card. Especially when you are drawing 2 extra cards. There were multiple times where I had like 7 builds because I was functionally a 9-hander, where I went Sense of Morals, built 5 foundations and assets. And it's really hard to get through that when I'm also drawing, you know, at the end of that, I still had 2 cards in my hand, and on your turn, I potentially could draw 2 more. So Sense of Morals is very important for your first build, if you can grab it. I was basically mulliganing hard for Shokin Prince and Sense of Morals in most of my matchups. That if I knew there were, I played a lot of aggro decks, so that was where most of my matchups were going, and to try to get those big builds off. In my 3-ofs, these are sort of the cards that I think are key for the deck. I want to see at least 1. Yeah, also your big staging area is immune to stun. That's very, very big. We don't have access to things like Celestial Being. We have some answers like Way of a True Warrior, but Sense of Morals just makes you unstunnable at this point. I don't have any big response or like reusable commit effects apart from maybe Living Pendulum and Wandering Pirate, but it's definitely useful and not a thing to discount, that it does ready your staging area. These 3-ofs I want to see at least 1 of during the game, and you'll see there's a lot of 1-ofs in the deck and sideboard. We'll get to why I like them in the form they're at right later. Hacker is I used to play 4 of it in pretty much every all deck that I had. Just because it was so important into decks like Ash and Kevin Broberg. But I dropped it down to 3. I did have 1 in the sideboard, but I opted to take it out in favor of some other cards. It's just very, very good. The deck really loves momentum, and sometimes you are going to take damage. I mean, it just happens. You can't block everything, even though I want to. And so the commit for a momentum fuels things like Royal Bodyguard. It sets you up for your Manjis later in the game. It's just very, very key. And then the enhance is really what you play it for. You get the momentum, and then you can immediately discard it to draw a card and flip one of your opponent's assets. And this is two big things. And it won me lots of games in the tournament. You can force your opponent into deadlock by flipping their assets. A lot of people will play into my deck that plays 4 fatalities, and they'll play very scared of deadlock. And it's you can just force your opponent into deadlock by flipping one of their assets if they have 10 foundations. And also there's the more obvious thing where you are flipping your opponent's most powerful green cards. If you're playing in Cassandra, I just flip the Owl Shield, and she doesn't get to have 11 damage throws. Her 3 diffs are puny and all that jazz. So, and she has to actually block as opposed to just being able to use her cormorants and swordfishes and so on and so forth. So it's a very, very key card. I think that it's undervalued in the format right now. I mean, those symbols don't see a ton of play, but I haven't been seeing Scott Sundman playing Hacker Extraordinary in his order decks, so maybe he should be. English Aristocrat is very, very choice. We have some 2 keyword attacks, things like Reduction, from Science with Love and I Shall Save Humanity. And I Shall Save Humanity is kind of a meme. I mean, you really should just be playing Random Gun, but I think it's funny and I want to play the card. But it gives me access to even more speed on a really fast, really big, I Shall Save Humanity. It makes me feel like back in the day when I was playing Sand Grenade Fae, where I was just like, you can't block this thing, it's for 50, bite it, and English Aristocrat does that. And in concert with some of the other things in the deck, like Marrying Age and Orphaned Alchemist, we can just gain a bunch of life. And this is really, really powerful. Also, with Black Bear Diner, which is the most broken card in the entire deck. People are going to be very hyper-focused on Evil Bow. They're going to be like, oh, that card's busted. They'll be like, from Science, oh my god, he played in the Cowboy Andy, and that's so busted into that character. They're going to be like, Guardian Slasher came in and was very relevant in a lot of my decks, but no, Black Bear Diner is the most broken card in this entire deck. It lets us reuse so many resources, and it's whatever I need. Maybe they're playing throws. I recycled Wave of True Warrior into Cassandra, and she never dealt any damage to me. I recycled Living Pendulum into Ava, and she never got to do any damage to me. I recycled True Identity because I wanted to kill with a string of a lot of meteors. So all of my meteors had 4 damage from destroying the Black Bear Diner, and also every new Black Bear Diner built a new True Identity. So I was getting +3 to my checks and +4 damage at all of my meteors. It's just really fucking good. And you can recycle your English Aristocrats. So you can, Marrying Age, enhance, reveal 3 cards, respond with 2 English Aristocrats, gain 6 life, recycle one of them, do another reveal with Over an Alchemist, and gain 3 more life. So it's just a lot of power in this one green card. Once you have this out, and that's why I play 3 of it, you just have pretty much all of the answers, and your opponent has to deal with it. It's pretty incredible. Worthy Vessel is the other 3 of... Oh, no, sorry, I didn't talk about Royal Bodyguard, but I'll talk about Worthy Vessel first. -2 damage when you can't block something is pretty good. But really what we want to do is do some spot removal of our opponent's discard pile. People really like their discard piles these days. Maybe a Cassandra wants to grab an Elk Shield sometime later. You get rid of it. Maybe you're playing into Raptor, and you're like, well, you're going to use those Leg Shredders at some point. No, you're going to use your Leg Shredder right now. I forced a situation where I had Marrying Age out, and I made my opponent remove a Leg Shredder, and I got to just like ready some things. Oh no, I think I built in a Manji Ninjutsu. It's just some of these things come together and have some very relevant abilities that just harmonize. It's so much fun to play. And then Royal Bodyguard is just like more pluses to their checks, and also this card and Precise Blow just make it combo decks just can't play the game very much. I've been a big Takeda fan for a long time, but it's so hard to play into things like Royal Bodyguard and Precise Blow, and those are 3 very, very popular symbols at the moment, because you need to play 2 more cards than you would normally. And until the good symbol gets some answers to things like that, I probably won't be visiting Takeda in a like serious context outside of like maybe some, I want to draw missile launcher every single turn or something like that. But Royal Bodyguard is very, very powerful. And again, you can, if somebody does go into a deep string, they're gonna have like -5 to their attack, and then you Black Bear Diner and reuse it. It's just a really strong card. You should definitely play a bunch of it. The only reason I'm not playing 4 is because I'm playing 4 Shokin Prince, and that's actually just +1 difficulty all the time. So they're kind of the same card, and that's cool. I mean, Shiva and Goro both have this +1 difficulty to all your things, and then they both got banned. God bless. Betrayer 12 is kind of like my hot little thingy here. If there are games that go very long, if my opponent doesn't is privy to my secret, right, which is that I want to go long. If they want to also go long, I can set up situations where I'm looping fatalities, and I'm just like, hey man, flip a card, and I'll do this every single turn. Flip a card. If you block, and if they get baited into blocking my fatality, that's fine. I'll draw a card and replace that fatality I just played, right? But you just set up a situation where you're from Sciences have like multiple 10 and things like that, and you're limiting the resources on board. It's not like something you need to have 4 of, I'm not saying that, but in the longer games, it's very, very good. I have never used the Destroy on it, but boy, discard their entire momentum would sound good against something like Janet. Orphan Alchemist is very, very good. They're if somebody else is playing Fatality, you want to be able to say no to them. You want to be able to say no to Royal Bodyguards, to Precise Blows. It's just very, very powerful. And it also reveals to activate your English Aristocrats. It's a very good card. I do have a 3rd one on the side. It's got a really, really good low block. Just a really good card. You should be playing it in all of those symbols. Feifei, I've been going between 1 and 4 of this card. But I decided at 2, because when I had it out, I found myself unflipping it with Black Bear Diner a lot. There are a lot of like 2 and 3 blocks in this deck, although all of the attacks have 1 or less. It's actually nuts how the attacks in the deck are just blocking for free, basically. But Feifei is a great card. You should be playing it. Don't forget about that one. Rhythmic Fighting Style helps us against throws. It's really why it's in the deck. I have a third one in the sideboard. For that reason, there's a lot of throw decks in the format. Astaroth, both have them. Infernos, a lot of the 5-handers. Cassandra is basically mono throws. But also if you're getting into a situation where you're in the real long game and your opponent's like recycling resources, like a Nightmare or something like that, Rhythmic Fighting Style removes their option from the game. And you can also have you can set up some cool situations with things like Blackbear Diner, where you can present a dilemma to your opponent, right? I had a situation where I played against Barrett Bryant, and I had a very big Meteor, and he only had 2 cards in his hand, and I had enough cards in my hand to kill him after that, where I Blackbeared his Showtime, and then I Rhythmic my attack. So I said, either you take a bunch of damage, or you have to deal with not having Showtime on board, and he had to block it. Very strong, very, very strong card. Has Breaker 1 on it too, with a great block. Great card. Daughter of the Blade of Rog is kind of the other piece to the Shogun Prince puzzle. Shogun Prince forces your opponent into near deadlock or deadlock. If they ever go into deadlock, Daughter of the Blade of Rog just rips up their staging area. There's very few cards that can actually deal with this. Putting a card on the bottom of their deck is kind of like Moonset adding it to their hand. Things like Protecting the Protector do not interact with this card. The only thing that I saw was Shadow of a Cowboy, and like, if they want to respond Shadow of a Cowboy every time, that's fine. I have From Science with Love, and that's +1 multiple every time they have to respond with Shadow of a Cowboy. So it's just very, very strong. And of course, the top enhance, I really only use it if I like super need to block something and I can't check bad, and I want to make sure I can get a good check on top. But it also works if you're like in a pinch and need to heal some life with English Aristocrat. So it's just a very, very good card. I think people should be playing it more, because the all symbol doesn't have very many relevant deadlock effects. Marrying Age, I mean, it's Marrying Age, guys. It's really, really good. I found myself committing for 2 speed and then destroying it with Meteor to just make a 9-speed Meteor. I blocked with it a lot. It's just a very, very good card. And then the response, like I said, I had a situation where I forced a Raptor to remove a Leg Shredder, and then I got to build in a free Manji to do some chicanery. So just a great card. I wouldn't play 4 of it unless I'm playing like Let's Cut Looses and stuff like that, but it's definitely a great card. And then we move on to our one-ofs in the Foundation category. Telekinetic Mastery was a last-minute addition. I was like, what do I do against Cowboy Andy? And I was like, I don't know. I hope to block. And Telekinetic Mastery really got me there. In my Andy matchup, I drew my one-of in my first turn, and then I sideboarded my Telekinetic Mastery the second time. The one thing to note here is that I don't have a billion 6 checks, and there are quite a few 4s. So you can get baited by it. Just be smart, play smart. When you're using Telekinetic Mastery, and it does have a very relevant discard hate. Not that Yoshi has trouble with discard decks in general, just because of all the extra hand size he has, but it's just a very good card. And you know, I'm probably gonna get lambasted for not playing like 3 main or something like that, but I don't think it's totally necessary. It's just like for those situations like playing into something like Cowboy Andy, where they have to be discouraged from playing the response too much, or else you get to just zero out their attack. Wandering Pirate was also like a kind of a eureka moment for me. One of the things that you don't want to do all the time is when you're playing Manji, you don't want to be responding every time with Yoshi to just get the stuff, right? But Wandering Pirate lets me have a Manji and the Wandering Pirate, and I can check a 5 and just commit this and ready this, right? And then on their turn, this ready. So it's just free all the time. And it's there exclusively for that interaction. If I draw Wandering Pirate and have Manji on board, then Manji is always online. If I check a 3 on anything but a Fatality, I draw 2 cards and tap those 2, and I get my stuff. So it's just a solid one-of. When you have it on board, it's very important. Otherwise, it's not like the most important piece. Trade Identity, I wouldn't play in iterations in the future. I'm not aggressing hard enough. If this was sorry, in iterations of this deck, this is not a very aggressive list. In aggressive Yoshimitsu lists, you play 3 of this card because you have to. It's just really, really good. But I didn't find myself in situations where I needed it early. There were always better options, but it's obviously an incredible card in concert with Meteor. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. We Are Many, but You Are But One. I put in at the very last minute on Friday, right before the event, because I was like, Squirrel is a very good card. And you get to have fun and give your opponent the evil symbol because it's funny. but you make a check of 6, which you can make very easily, and in fact, it's more checks, right? If you're like really digging for Evil Bow, you can get there. But just making your opponent discard a momentum, especially in decks that are running things like Reverberate, against Kodal is very, very, very good, because he would, snap a momentum, and then his next attack would happen. I'd say, no, get rid of that momentum. It's just a very good card. I probably should have sideboarded a second one because it was very relevant in the matches that I played throughout the day. Solomon's Teachings, I think, it's pretty easy to see why I run it. It's just, it's kind of like Fei, but it's at commit speed. And there are tons of decks like Kung Jin, like Cowboy Andy, like Cassandra, who are just making things very, very, very fast, right? And just saying, no, that's a 3-speed attack, I'm going to block it on a 4 or a 5, is very, very powerful. It's a very, very strong card that doesn't see a lot of play because it has a bad block and it checks a 4. And like if things are 5-speed, it's not quite that good. But the one of with the extra one on the side is great for tech for decks that are just sending very, very fast attacks. And for the same reason, Living Pendulum hits it in the same way, right? There are decks that are like packing speed on things. Like my big thing is big shots. I don't like big shots very much, so I want to have answers to it. Living Pendulum really helps you there. And if your opponent is burning you to death, you can say, fuck you, you burn too as well. Just very, very good cards. I was reusing them both with Blackbeard Diner quite a bit. Way of a True Warrior, I went through the all symbol, and this one was sort of like, man, what if my opponent's playing a bunch of like keywords that really suck? Like, I didn't have any multiple answers. All doesn't have anything really that answers multiple, and Way of a True Warrior helps you immensely in those situations. Certainly if I played into the Punch Vault deck, I had no answer for that. But it gives me answers to throws. It gives me answers to Reverberate decks that they just have to deal with. And that's why there's one main and one side. It's a non-block, and I have way too many of those already. I mean, I have 4 of Sense of Morals and Shoken, and I have 3 Hackers, and I mean, the list goes on for all these non-blocks in the deck. But it's very key in some matchups. In other ones, it's not so good, but very, very good. Then we move on to assets. I already talked about Blackbeard Diner. It's the best card in the deck. It's spot removal when you need it. It's unflip on some cards. Maybe it's re-ready with some others. It's just very, very strong. And a very key thing here is that it's also a weapon. So I'm playing a bunch of copies of it for that reason too. Normally I would probably play 2. I have played iterations with 4 of it just because I love it that much. But it's an absolutely bonkers card, and in Yoshimitsu you want to have as many weapons as possible. I mean, your attacks are certainly there, but most of the assets in the game are also weapons, so that pumps your weapon count quite a bit. So you don't have to run things like there's an Ivy card that has like Breaker 2 and a 3 mid block. That's a weapon that sometimes you have to run, but I don't want to run too many weapons that don't do stuff, right? And so running a bunch of copies of Blackbeard Diner allows me to play more copies of weapons that do things. So just a strong card. Very, very good. Soul Calibur, this has been relevant a few times. It has the infinity symbol, and sometimes you want to block reversal with Evil Bow. Or maybe you only have Koenmas in your hand. Like I have a bunch of multi-symbol things, and Soul Calibur lets me delay my usage of things like Know the Power of the Abyss. It lets me delay the usage of my Evil Bow. So the infinity symbol thing is actually relevant there. And also, you get to use the Soul Calibur response on it. I have absolutely had situations where I hit them with a weapon and I was like, cool, I'm going to go grab Fiddlesticks, or I'm going to go grab Blackbeard Diner. I tried to do it on a multiple copy, and I definitely could not do that because it says specifically weapon. But the response remove on it is very good. The commit, of course, is why you play the card. Obviously, you want to say no to things like Moonset. You want to say no to things like Meteor. Say no to all the really busted weapons in the game. This card is nuts. But I mean, we get to use all 3 really cool things of the card, which is that it has a great block in the infinity symbol, so I can chain my off symbol things, and we get to use both of the responses. Just really cool. We love it. Inferno Soul Edge, I'm never using the first dev, but the Desperation R is worth having, and it's a 1 mid weapon, so I mean, it's good. Certainly saved my game against Kodal in game 2, so very, very good card. Fiddlesticks gets me out of deadlock. Sometimes there are deadlock cards that really will fuck you up. You know, if I'm playing into a water deck, the game will go long because water decks are capable of extending the game with things like precise blows and shokans, and I certainly cannot go into deadlock against Champion of Combat. I just don't have the tools to deal with that. So this card is something that I would tutor up in those sorts of matchups where I want to keep myself out of deadlock. And you can cycle fatalities, right? If you're playing fatalities and you're just trying to really mill your opponent out, not that I recommend it. It just takes a while, but you can do that. So just a generally pretty good card. Fada Ball is low key incredible. If you're playing a more aggressive list, which I can share later on, if you guys want to play some games later this week, I can show you some of more aggressive lists. It gives things like Ghost Thief, Funeral +2/+1. But the response is very, very key. I don't have that many assets, and sometimes you're stuck in awkward situations where you only have like one asset. So, and they have a bunch of face downs or something like that. You could be like, from Science, grab one momentum, respond with the Fada Ball, add another card from your hand. And there are a lot of situations where I didn't find an Evil Bow in my discard pile, but I had a Manji and I had a Fada Ball, and the Evil Bow was in my hand, and I went F Manji, grab the momentum, respond Fada Ball, add that Evil Bow to momentum, and then I discard that Evil Bow from the momentum, and oh look, I found an Evil Bow. So I mean, it's just good, and it has a 1 low block. This card is very undervalued for decks like this, where you can use the top part of it for really good gain, and also if you can use that Fury enhance, it's crazy. +2/+1 twice per turn. It's crazy, dudes. Very good. Actions. We have our 4 Komenmas main, and 1 Shiki Zeku, and 1 Know the Power of the Abyss. Koenma's is a bonkers card that if you can get it off, it's just the most tilting thing that you can possibly play into. Of course, it has a long-ass paragraph to play there, but I got it off turn 2 against Keenan Meadows playing Cowboy Andy. I played it. I think I got it off in more than half of my matches, where I just removed their best cards and then grabbed another Koenma's, because that's what you always do with the card, is you have one removed, and in an ideal situation, the reason why it works well in this deck is because we have access to things like Evil Bow. So we can start with a Koenma's in my hand, discard a momentum to stack Evil Bow, stack the Evil Bow, make a check, remove Koenma's, grab another Koenma's from my discard pile if I have 2 of them there. And then suddenly it's online, right? That's the question that the card asks. It asks you to have one removed. And so you have to either have some way to remove target card from the game, or have some way to, or your opponent has to be playing actions, right? And in this case, the way to get the Koenmas out of your hand and into the RFG pile is with Evil Bow and Manji. So that makes it quite consistent. Sometimes you get unlucky and there's a bunch of Koenmas on the bottom of your deck or something like that. But the ideal situation is you have 2 in your discard pile, or like 1 in your discard pile, 1 in your hand, or something like that, and you have another. You have to have 3 in access, right? So let's say there are 2 Koenmas in your discard pile and 1 in your hand. You stack Evil Bow with Manji. You play a card that chains death. That's important. To draw 2 cards and remove thing with Koenmas, or remove the Koenmas in your hand with Evil Bow, grab the other Koenmas, play the Koenmas on a 4 or more, because there's a bunch of Shogun Princes, and you go through their deck, you search through it. They don't. That's an important thing. A lot of people, you tell them that I'm removing this thing, they go through it. No, they don't get to look how many attacks are left in their deck, so you get that information and they don't. And you always name Koenmas in your deck unless they're all accounted for, so that you can do it twice, because the second time you know exactly what's in their deck, and that's tilting. There's situations where I'm like, I'm gonna remove the shotguns from your deck, and suddenly I saw all of your hurricanes. Okay, the next one's removing all 4 of your hurricanes. So it's just really fast if you can get it off, and your opponent has to now deal with much fewer options, right? Really, really strong card. Very, very good. I only got it off on turn 2 one time. On Saturday, at the event, and then Keenan smoked me the next turn. Anyway, it was pretty funny. Shikisoku Zeku, actually, it's what a wonderful card name. Is a really interesting card. Both phases are very, very good. And I certainly used both of them to great effect. But the 7-up remove, discard a weapon. We have tons of weapons in the deck. I mean, it's just remove this attack. Boom. Bang. That's it. Just remove the attack. We only play one, but we can have situations where we have big hands, and if there's something we don't want to deal with or don't want to spend resources to block, we can just remove it. So it's a good one of. I wouldn't play more of it main, but there are certainly decks where you know they're just working too fast, or they're you know they've got too many answers for me. So I want to have one extra thing. It's kind of like Deliverance in that way, where you're just like answer this unbeatable attack or something like that. Like if you're playing into a Yusuke, it's very good because Yusuke will be targeting my rhythmic fighting styles and Wave Tree Warriors and things like that. So having an answer in hand is very, very good and very important. Know the Power of the Abyss. I hate fast attacks, guys. I don't know if you've noticed. I hate fast attacks. So this card says, I play this. I pick a Precise Blow. I block with Precise Blow. Please end your turn. It's just a very good card. And, you know, we don't like speed. That's why we play billions of speed hate. That's all I've got to say about that card. We got another one in the sideboard. Also, this card comes in every time that this card comes in, because grabbing Guardian Slasher has got to be the most soul-crushing thing that anybody has ever had to deal with. Finally, we go through the attacks. We got 4 Fatality because this is not a mill deck. We got 4 Meteors because that card's busted. It's just nuts. In retro, we didn't have access to either of these two things, and I could still mill. So that shows you how much more effective this deck is at milling, and at killing as well, because Meteor is very, very deadly. But you know, I know a lot of people were memeing at me like, oh, why aren't you playing Hell Vortex? It's because Fatality is much, much better than Hell Vortex. And so is Meteor. There are situations where if you just wanted to mill, you could probably get rid of some of these. Oh, Lamau. You can probably get rid of some of these things. Like, you don't play any attacks that are trying to kill them. And you just play, you know, the defense and Hell Vortex and Fatality, and you just try to mill them. But that's not what I'm about. I wanna do damage to people. I wanna kill them. And I'm really more about limiting the resources than I am about flat out milling them. There are certainly situations in the day where I should have just milled somebody, but I think that's lame, and I wanna play the game just as much as I want my opponent to play the game. My ideal situation in UFS is where my opponent has all the options available to them. I'm not necessarily saying no, but they still can't get through me. That's what gets my jollies off. You know, I want my opponent to have access to things, but I'm still outplaying them. You know, that's what makes me feel big. So Fatality is just very good. It gives us momentum for Manji, it gives us momentum for Royal Bodyguard, for Hacker Extraordinary, whatever we need it to be. And also it's an uninteractable. Oh yeah, totally, dude, absolutely. Well, you know, I didn't say that. I didn't say that's not saying no. That's not saying no. Shogun Prince is not saying no. It's just saying that it's harder for you to play the game. I want to make it much, much more difficult for you to play the game, but I don't want it to be unplayable. I want us to have a jolly good time. Fatality gives us an uninteractable enhanced step. It's definitely broken. This card's crazy. But at this point, it's just like a known quantity. But there are situations where, like, I was against Barrett, and he had lots and lots of Shadows of a Cowboy, and I needed to get through his Guardian's final duties. So I looped Fatalities, and I Daughter of the Bladed Rod to add him back to the bottom of his deck. So it's a very, very strong thing, being able to have an enhanced step when your opponent doesn't get to interact with it. You know, that's always been the really big contested thing about Fatality. And I think nothing tilts me personally more than when somebody plays a Fatality and tells me that it's my enhance. I don't know if that works for anybody else, but it's just like, you know that I don't get to do anything here, right? And I mean, and I do it all the time too, where I'm like, enhanced Yoshi, would you like to do anything? Oh, right, of course, I'm playing Fatality. Meteor grabs us whatever we want. There's so many plays you get to do because this card is so versatile. It's way too good. It is the best Libra card that hasn't gotten banned, and I think it's much better than some of the cards that did get banned from Libra. Like, this card is much better than Shadow Slicer. It's just not as much of a high roll, and it can be. It's essentially a 4-diff, right? Not saying that it should be banned. It's just a very strong attack. You know, this is like the shotgun tier of stuff, right? Where it's just that good. You know, if you have situations where you need to find a specific piece, I need to get Manji, I need to get more Shokin Princes. I need to grab an asset. You know, it's whatever you need it to be in that situation. Maybe you need to kill them, so you start looping Marrying Ages. Maybe you needed more damage, so you Worthy Vessel need to kill one of their things. Maybe you just need more defense, so you bring out Wiramedi, you bring out Living Pendulum or Way of the True Warrior. It's just a very versatile card. And it's not always killing people, but it's always furthering your win condition, and that's really important for the deck. Evil Bow, we've already talked to it to death, but one thing is that it does seal your opponent's character. The reason why this deck does so well into Kuwabara, even though it's really just a big damage deck, is that I can sit around, wait for me to have this giant powerful attack, and the Evil Bow will just seal the opponent's character. It removes itself from pool, so we don't have to worry about chaining anymore. And then you go to town on them. I've used it offensively quite a bit. But of course it is mainly played for the response after you check it, in concert with Manji Ninjutsu. We've talked about that quite a bit. Reduction is in the deck because we do have options to play fat multiples, but there's also the, we force Deadlock with Hacker Extraordinaire. We force Deadlock with Shokin Prince. So there's certainly the option that you can Reduction, Fatality somebody. Even if they're not in desperation, you get to do the combo enhance with Reduction. It's just a very, very powerful thing. And it has Breaker 2 with a 1 mid block. Just really, really good. Check Evil Bow, pick up the other Evil Bow. Dude, power move. Precise Blow, just a very strong card. We don't like combo decks. We hate the combo decks, so we can't let them play their game. Yeah, that's it. And I did kill Mike Lowe with it. Fuck you, Mike Lowe. From Science with Love and I Shall Save Humanity are the 1-2 punch in terms of killing them. What happened to letting them play the game? Listen, Tim, I'm all hot air. I don't want to die to Exploding Flamer. That card's huge. From Science with Love actually, before I talk about From Science with Love, Precise Blow is actually very, very good when you also are playing Shogun Princes and Royal Bodyguards. It's just a lot of pluses to their checks. You know, it's a lot, and you can pick it up with the Power of the Abyss. You can pick it up with Evil Bow. You know, it's just a lot of things coming together, right? You know, if you have 2 Shoguns and you block their first attack, suddenly they have to deal with +4 to their difficulty on the next card, and that's really tough to deal with. From Science with Love and I Shall Save Humanity are 2 facets to get paid off of all this momentum we're generating with Fatality and Manji Ninjutsu. From Science, there's a lot of natural flips that people are doing. If somebody's savvy to my deck, I do have ways to, flip their things, like I talked about earlier with Betrayer of 12. But even if they just they're like, no, I'm gonna, maybe they're also playing Blackbird Iron, they're unflipping the things that I'm flipping, then it just grabs you 100 momentum, and that's very good on its own. It's a 0 low block, 4 high 5, so it, we can make it big with Yoshimitsu. And it just gets us 100 momentum to be able to fuel our Manjis later in the game, because sometimes you don't hit that 7-up consistently. There are certainly awkward draws with the deck. And then I Shall Save Humanity is my preferred method of killing, because I think it's a big ol' swag attack. I think it's super fun. You commit 2 assets, and if you're smart like me, you commit the asset before you want to commit the assets, and you fail at it because you suck at the game. But and you just yeet 4 momentum and make it, a billion speed for 47 damage. And then your opponent plays Know the Power of the Abyss and blocks it, because they're also cool and from Florida and play Know the Power of the Abyss. But it's a very cool card. It has a 0 high block. So, I don't feel bad holding on to these cards, because they have incredible blocks. And I'm pretty sure that the reason they have these bad blocks is because Jasko didn't want them to be played in Cassandra, but then they gave Vicious Madness and all the rest of the Astaroth throws Cassandra stuff. And I think that a Cassandra that plays I Shall Save Humanity is so much more exciting than Cassandra that plays a bunch of throws. Imagine if this card had a 2 high block and suddenly Cassandra had access to this 7 speed, 17 damage attack. That'd be really cool. Maybe it's just me. Yeah, I'm the guy that likes it. So that's most of the deck. We just have the sideboard. We've already seen Way of the True Warrior and Shigezeku and Rhythmic. Get those. But the ones that we didn't really talk about were Guardian Slasher, which, like I talked about, sometimes you don't get your Shokuns out, and we don't have lots of answers to big strings. If somebody wants to string me to death, and they have ways to deal with my Shokans, they have ways to deal with my bodyguards, and maybe it's a multiple deck Guardian Slasher. Typically, if I have it, will just end the turn. There were times where I played into decks against Barrett Bryant. I thought that there was a second shotgun coming, so I played the Guardian Slasher and I burnt 4 to not die that turn, essentially. And it's just a very good card that is very underplayed. I mean, it's not underplayed. It's a 4/1, and it's got a very exorbitant cost on it. But it's a good sideboard when you don't have when you need that extra juice, the extra option to actually, yes, Tim, stop your opponent from playing the game. Just stop, right? And that's why it's not main board, is because it's not necessary most of the time. But certainly we want every little piece of technology that we can to help us out. And I only cited it into the Barrett matchup because we were joking around before the match, and I said that in game 2 I wanted to Guardian Slasher him, so I cited it in just for that. I don't think it was necessary for the matchup, but I thought it was funny, and it ended up having a really fun little mini game where I had a 3 and a 2, and it was a very fast Flame Aura, I think, where I needed to grab Shikazeki Zoku off of the Evil Bow check that I was about to make and then play the Guardian Slasher. It was just a really funny moment. And Jose was telling me that all our friends were going nuts for it. Shohoken is just very, very good. I think that I might not play it in the future in the sideboards because I would draw it when I wanted to multiple or something like that. But it is an answer to multiple. It's a deal. And a lot of times people who are playing fat multiple decks are not just starting with the multiple, they'll play an attack and then another one. And so Shohoken, you can block with it against their first attack, and then suddenly they can't multiple out because the cards can't leave their discard pile after they discard it from momentum. But it's also very relevant into things that are tutoring, into things that are shoving things out of their card pool. It's just a very, 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 very flexible and effective card. It's never leaving the sideboard. What am I talking about? Never leaving the sideboard. Just a good card. Just great. Extremely good. But that's the deck. They're just like general notes if you want to try it in the future. It's very, very difficult to play. It's not easy to wrap your mind around, and you have to the thing about Yoshimitsu in general, I mean, this is an 80 card deck, is that you get what you get. You can try to have the perfect things, and there's certainly ways to grab the things that you want with things like Meteor and with Evil Bound, things like that, but it's very easy to get lost in the sauce. And so that's why I say that it's a very, very difficult deck to play, because of all the options that you have. If you are going to try to play this, make sure that you have your eyes on the prize and you know exactly what you need in situations, and recognize that you're going to be wrong sometimes. You got to play what you have. If you drop your 5 cards and then you get some weird shit, and like it kind of plays itself in a way, not like in a stupid way, but like in a like I got this and I have to work with it, and it makes you a very clever game state and gameplay, and I know it's contentious to some people who don't like to see mill decks in general, but I didn't go to time. It wasn't like I was just sitting there the entire game. I 2-0'd a lot of people by killing them with humanity and meteors and from sciences, and the games that I did go to 3 games, which were against Kotal Khan and against Kawaii, they didn't go to time, or the Kotal did, but that was because my opponent was changing a diaper and we needed a time extension, and we finished before the time extension was done. So it doesn't take very, very long, I think, in my opinion, to play. So it's not like a toxic control deck that just doesn't let you play the game. And then when you do go into untimed rounds and your opponent can play around with it, usually it is the opponent that's holding up the game state, I was very frustrated playing into Sam Tate because he was playing very, very smart, and he was cool and collected, and I wanted to kill him, so I wanted to go in, even though the answer probably should have been that I should just mill the Raptor, So somebody who's smarter than me can play this deck and probably be even more toxic than I am with the deck, but I think it's a lot of fun. I think that it's a really, really neat and diverse deck with lots of different game styles and ways that you can go about it, and I would love to see somebody else have a take on it. The last thing, yeah, Sam, what a fantastic time to tune in. By the way, Sam outplayed the shit out of me. He was absolutely slamming me. I wasn't even upset at the end of the match. Frustrated, but not upset. It was fun to play. It's always fun to play into Sam, and that is actually the first time that I dropped even a game against Raptor. I played a bunch into Jose last year, and yeah, you were definitely dead if I didn't check it too. But that would have just been a third game. It is what it is, man. It was a fun, frustrating match, but Sam really showcased his smart, measured play, and that was fun to do. But my thoughts on the extra 2 cards and the player 2 conundrum in general, was just 100% on calling the matchup for you from commentary. Yeah, I mean, Sam's just a really good player. It's not 100%. I mean, Raptor can certainly kill anything. He's a bonkers character, right? I should probably put the chat in the call. Damn, that sucks. I should have thought about that before. I'll do that for Jose's video. My thoughts on the format. I think the +2 cards is very, very helpful for the second player, but I do think that there needs to be something done for 2 things. One, I think the mulligan needs to be fixed, because now the first player, I had lots of situations where I forced my opponent to go first, and they just drew really poorly and lost the game because of it. I think that mulligan rules need to be changed. It's just like, I remember vividly Keenan Meadows playing Kuwabara into a Jetta deck, and he was just like, I'm a 5-hander and I drew a bunch of orange and I can't play the game, you know? And it really sucks to be in those situations. And so I want there to be my more aggressive approach would be incorporating the Pokemon Mulligan. I've talked about that on our podcast, which you guys should check out if you haven't. You know, the brewing with Birch and Bromley. But at the very least, a Turbo Mulligan where you get to keep some cards and you just do like a poker, you know, mulligan. You know, I keep these 2 foundations and hopefully draw 2 more, because there are too many times where you know, people mulligan a 1 foundation hand and drop into a 6 attack hand, and it's just like, oh, you lost. You know, I lost. The second thing is, I think that attacking on 1 should just be banned, for both players. I think it's unhealthy. I've spent the last year railing about it, and it's just like it keeps happening. The match against Kodal, the player who went first lost because Kodal wanted to play stupid strings against me on turn 1 every single game. And I don't think that's healthy for the format. Jackie Briggs can do the same thing. She's obviously very, very powerful with these rules because she's seeing 11 cards and things like that. But there's just no reason why either player should be dealing with big attacks on their first turn. And so the extra 2 cards allows you to block on when your opponent's going first, right? And I think that's an eloquent solution. Perhaps it's too strong for some characters. So some characters, if this ever goes live, will have to be reevaluated. You know, Yoshimitsu is obviously very, very strong, being able to be a functional 9-hander going second. Jackie Briggs is another outlier, but it was, I thought, fun. And the other thing is, I didn't pick this deck because of the +2 hand size. I picked the deck because I think it was very good in general. And I think that all the people who did well that day, everybody in top 8, you know, were playing decks that weren't cheesing turn 1 stuff. They were just playing good decks, and I think that good decks will continue to be good regardless of the rules. So certainly that stuff helps. And you know, I had situations where I built like 7 and stuff like that, but like, that's, in my opinion, that's fine. Player 2 needs something. And the results, I mean, you guys have seen Tim's stats. It was meaningful. You know, it went from 64% to the event being around the 54%. I mean, that's 10. There's of course a margin of error, and we should continue testing like this. But I think it was a resounding success. I just think that attacking on 1 should be just banned for both players. And I think that there should be some change to the mulligan rules. But yeah, that's what I think. This is my deck that I played at the Tim Keefe Experimental TTS tournament. I got to top 4 and then got washed by Sam Tate, and that was fun. I was Swiss champion, which was also a lot of fun. And we'll of course be going a little bit more into the details of like the event and all the stuff surrounding it in our Brewing with Birch podcast later this week. But thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you will consider subscribing, because every little bit helps the channel. Give the guys over at Rochester a really, really warm round of applause. Send them tips and all that stuff, because they sent a really fantastic tournament. Jesse really made it work really well. Tim made excellent judge calls. The prizing was great. And the commentary team with Broberg, Tam, and Sean were just killing it all day. So it was a lot of fun. Check out our Patreon. You don't have to. I'm telling you to give us any money, but if you do, it helps out. And if not, just leave a comment and tell us what you think about our videos. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Thanks, guys.